The South African Air Force Museum Airshow is back this weekend after a 3-year hiatus. Now, to kick off the event, the Gautrain, in fact, has also, and an SAA helicopter, I beg your pardon, will race between Midrand and Centurion. Ahmed Kajee is watching these developments for us and joins us now from Zwartkops Air Force Base. And Ahmed, you were actually in a helicopter earlier. How was that?
Yes, and indeed I was. And if there's one thing I can tell you is that if you do want a good hairdo, don't sit in a helicopter with its door open. Your hair will go all over the place. And that's exactly what we had this morning. But that was just a precursor to what we are expected to see over the weekend, with various South African Air Force aircraft making their way to the Zwartkops Air Force Base for a day full of aviation festivities. Also a fundraiser for the SA Air Force Museum, as many enthusiasts for the South African Army, for the South African Air Force, the Defence Force, and obviously the museum will be coming through for that. But the big thing which we had seen coming out of today was the Alouette 2, which is a old aircraft which has been retired from active service, but is still being put up against one of the flagship symbols of the Gauteng province is transport sector. And that's exactly what we had seen this morning, the race between the Midrand Gautrain station and the Centurion station, and this is something that has been done throughout the extent over the last 5 to 6 years or so of the South African Air Force show. The Wednesday prior to the air show, we normally have this race coming through. The last one was out in 2019 as well. At the time, the Gautrain had come out victorious. Today, however, the Alouette 2 still managed to make its way, to still show that it has the power, still has the capability, it still has the speed to keep up with the modern technology. It come out well ahead of the Gautrain. So many people who were maybe aviation enthusiasts would be very excited at what had taken place this morning. But over the weekend, we are expecting various aircraft acrobatic displays from aeroplanes, from helicopters. This is some of the SA Air Force's aircraft will be coming through, and also the flagship SANDF Gripen, which will be coming through. 3 of those our flagship fighter jets, which normally do the observations in and around our borders and across the country, they will be coming through. So for anyone who would like to come through for that, that's taking place on Saturday morning from 7 o'clock in the morning. But we are expecting a briefing later on between Gautrain officials, the Gauteng province, as well as the South African Air Force, to give us more information on what we can expect this weekend. But for this morning, it seems to have been a morning of excitement for the commuters of the Gautrain, and obviously for the South African Air Force. Ayanda.
And we're actually watching visuals earlier on from today, Ahmed, of that actual race that you were speaking about between the Gautrain and this particular aircraft. It started off in a way that it doesn't appear to have necessarily ended. But I suppose for those who are still struggling to place the importance of the story, Ahmed, take us through what the museum is about and essentially what they aim to do.
So the museum has been a celebration of everything with regards to the South African Air Force. This is over the last 70 to 80 or 90 years even, and this has been restored with many enthusiasts and many veterans from the South African Air Force who have been flying, who have dedicated their lives to the services of the South African Air Force. Many of their symbols, many of their training has been taking place at the South African Air Force and the South African Air Force Museum. So this weekend's air show will see more funds being raised for these particular programs as well. So when we're coming through to journalists, coming through many enthusiasts, many South Africans will make their way from different parts of the country to Zwartkops Air Force Base to just see what we actually have to offer from a South African Air Force point of view, and just the overall expectations as well. We have helicopters which will be coming through. Many of the private schools, flight schools, will also be demonstrating their abilities as well. So this is exactly what we are expected to see on Saturday. But this museum over here particularly is to celebrate what we have seen over the last 100 years in the South African Defence Force, in South Africa, in the Air Force as well. And then, as I mentioned, some of the profits which will be made from this weekend, which would have come through from the awareness from today, will be working towards the South African Air Force Museum to continue the development of what we have been seeing in and around our Defence Force, and in some way or form be able to take this training and the awareness going forward, and to not just celebrate the legacy of what was, but to also ensure that we can continue that legacy going forward, and that the South African Air Force will go from strength to strength. And in some way or form, this is one of the ways that they hope to do this. And with an event such as the one which we are seeing on Saturday with that airshow, perhaps young enthusiasts as young as the ages of 5, 6 or 7 years old will actually get that excitement of aviation and perhaps join the South African Air Force in the future and contribute to the South African government and the South African country as a whole, and start that public service going forward as well. Ayanda.
Absolutely. Mavericks in the air, while Ahmed Kajee watches the situation from the ground. Live to us there from Zwartkops Air Force Base in Centurion. Ahmed, for now, thanks very much indeed.